Are we recording?
We're recording. Welcome to the visual div.
No, we're not. Are we?
We are. We're recording.
Oh shit! Hi, Matt.
Hey, Ailín. How are you doing?
Good. Good. I was about to just talk about stuff that we weren't meant to be recording. You sprung that on me, even though I knew that we were meant to be recording 14 minutes ago.
So, for those that are listening, when we press record, we have a 5-second countdown, and Ailín didn't quite see the 5, the 4, the 3. Then when he saw the 2, he panicked a little bit, and
no, I saw it, but I thought you turned it off or like press stop.
I did try and turn it off, but I'm not that good with.
Okay, so I had a visual cue. It looked like you were going to press a button.
I'm afraid we're on now, and given that we don't do that much editing to this podcast, we everyone will just hear what we're.
Editing, do we?
We don't do any editing. I add the chicken noise at the start and at the end.
Chicken noise, the chicken tune.
Yeah, and if anyone's listening, I use GarageBand. If any, remember GarageBand, that thing that is on your Mac, but no one's ever used it because, well, why would you use GarageBand? We're not teenagers in our garage recording stuff anymore. So I used GarageBand to add the chicken noises, and it does a great job because I couldn't find anything else to do that with. So anyway, long story short, we're here. We're on another podcast episode. We've hit 50 countries. That was a big milestone that we hit. 50 countries.
Fucking mental. 50 countries. I'm blown away by that. The thing that I'm most blown away by is America is it's like 23% of our listens are coming from America. And then 25% of those listens are coming from Wisconsin. Do we just have these? Who in Wisconsin is listening to us? It's so cool.
I need to find this out. I think the Flow Man lives in Wisconsin, and or Tony Seats lives in Wisconsin.
Okay,
but
it's either we've got this little cluster of loads of fans, or we've got a super fan.
They do a big watch party in Wisconsin.
A listen party.
A listen party in Wisconsin.
They'd be watching fuck all.
Yeah. Put a slideshow on and just put us on in the background. No, it's amazing. 50 countries. When you tweeted that, I did try and work out. I've been to 50 countries. And I went through my spreadsheet and put all the stuff down. I realised I've only been to 32 countries, and that disappoints me.
It's a lot of countries, but
it's a lot of countries. But I wish I was over 50. Doesn't seem. How many countries in the world? There's something like 250.
I think
countries.
Officially about 190. It's
oh, okay.
I don't think it breaks 200, but I stand to be corrected. Oh, and actually, so I'm just looking at our stats here. Yeah, so Wisconsin is 10% of our listens in the US. And then Minnesota is 26.7% of our listens in the US. Between those two places, that's nuts.
Yeah, we'll have to do a shout. I don't know. All I know that I think it snows a lot at this time of year in Minnesota, so maybe lots of people are inside listening to us. Maybe.
Why?
Well, why? Good question. Why indeed? Well, why this week? Why should you listen to us this week? Sorry, when we're talking and doing our intro, I look down at the clock and see, 4 minutes has passed, and I've got this little bird who was actually Jack Redley on my shoulder going, you need to tell everyone what you're going to talk about this week.
So basically every week you just give out about Jack telling you what to do, and you don't do what Jack tells you what to do.
Every week you just keep talking. That's, you just keep introducing new little interesting little...
point of the podcast.
Yes, very true. But hey, we're 5 minutes in. We've got to tell these people who've come here to listen about something. They've obviously reacted to our clickbait that we put in the title.
Yeah, but I didn't even know that we were starting this podcast. I don't even know what the topic is.
Oh, the topic. Okay, yeah, that's true. This week,
we saw the countdown.
We are going to talk about how it is so tough to be a freelancer. There's a lot of like, and I do like them. I won't knock them too much, but there's a lot of hey, end of year reviews flying around, which is always positive. It's always good to have a look back and reflect on the year that's gone. But I guess I wouldn't mind just reflecting on how hard this year has been from a freelance point of view. I've had some ups, I've had some big downs. You know, the end of the year has finished off pretty positively, but it's been tough. And I think, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to talk about and reflect on the freelancing journey, if you can call it that, and like throw some ideas around of why freelancing is actually pretty damn hard. Because I know you find it hard as well.
Yes, you just want to talk about the realities of freelancing, I suppose.
Yes, that's a good way to summarize it. Thanks, Ailín. Thanks.
So, yeah, like freelancing, I suppose there is this kind of sale of a dream of what freelancing is, um, financial freedom and all that nonsense. But essentially, it's running your own business. And when you're the one person band, your sales, marketing, your outreach, your onboarding, your production, delivery, all that kind of crack. So along about 2 years ago, I realized what I liked and what I didn't like. And I I started bringing other people on board and outsourcing, not outsourcing, but getting partners to work with me because of how difficult just running a business is and how difficult producing something that is of high value to a client. And um, yeah, so the I suppose what the hardest thing is always getting work. What I found is the hardest thing. I found it quite easy to retain work, retain clients, um, but yeah, like but that with the retention of clients, you come up with other pitfalls like, oh, they need work done by next week, and are you available or not? So yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to take on board with it. Um, but yeah, I suppose give us a give us a brief of how the year's been and what you're thinking.
Yeah. So this year, when I started this year, and I know it's natural to say let's put it in a year, but this year started, I think, back in January. Yeah, obviously back in January. But it
Like every
started
other year, it starts in
like every
January.
other year. Yeah, yeah. Even on a leap year, it starts in January. um, yeah, I was working at an agency, like a pretty well known agency called 8020, who they're like a Webflow enterprise agency based really in the US, but actually based out of Canada, I think, is their headquarters or their business headquarters. But like lots of kind of contractors from around the world. So from Canada, from the States, from Brazil, from Ecuador, from the US, from Ireland, or whatever. Anyway, I was working for them as a. They paid me every 2 weeks on a contract, and as clients come in, I'd work on certain projects, and it was a nice consistency. Um, but there are ups and downs with agency work. You get to work on clients that maybe you don't want to work on. You work on projects which are, get them out the door projects. You don't get exposure to maybe the other aspects of building websites that you enjoy, like the UX side of things or the strategy side of things. And anyway, wind forward to February, and I was thinking, oh, maybe if I go freelance, it might be a bit more positive. I can control who I work with. Anyway, the decision was taken that out of my hands. So 80/20 had to lay off a few people. We got laid off, and I was thrown into the freelance world. And boom, like heavy landing. You go from one day knowing what you're doing to the next day taking on all of those jobs that you described. Where do I get leads from? Like, how do I do my accounts? How do I present myself? Do I want to pretend to be an agency or to a studio, or is it Matt Evans the freelancer? Like, how do I tell the world that I've moved from agency to freelance? What projects should I pick on? What jobs should I pitch for? Should I pitch for €1,000 jobs, or should I pitch for €20,000 jobs? Like, and underneath that all is the uncomfortable truth that I know that if I don't work or land a client, I don't get paid. It's like it's brutal. It's not a feeling that I've ever had that much before. I started a business back in 2012 selling coffee, and I'd given myself a buffer, a kind of runway, a 6-month runway, and said, look, I'm going to make it work, but I planned out my income for that 6 months. And if I hadn't made it work, I'd go back and get a job, and happy days. With freelancing, it's slightly different. It's like, I want to make this work. I want to work as a freelancer. I want to work for people in the US. I want to work for people in the UK, in Europe, across the world from my base in Dublin, in a way that I can do really good work, enjoy my day, and provide for my family. And February was like a rude awakening that when you're stuck in your bedroom on a Zoom call, yes, you got all this technology at your fingertips. People don't know who you are, and people don't just invite you to pitch for work. And luckily, I had some clients that I had before I joined 80/20 that needed some work. I reached out to them, and they gave me work, and it worked all right until probably about May time, when the leads started like drying up pretty majorly. And I went for probably a month and a half, and I had no new leads coming in. And it's brutal. It means that you've got no money coming in, you know? And when you've got no money coming in for 6 weeks, it actually means you've got no money coming in for 3 months, because even if you land a project tomorrow, that project is not necessarily going to be completed for another 4 or 6 weeks, which means that's when you get paid the full invoice. So you start to worry, and you start to think, gee, this is I have to go downstairs and tell my wife that we've got less money coming in. We can't book that holiday to Portugal that we want to go on, because if we do, we're not going to have any money in the bank when we get home. We don't want to go raiding our savings and all this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, we decided that we want to move house. So we want to go and buy a house. We're old enough and ugly enough now with a young grown family to decide to do big adult shit like that. And you start talking about mortgages, and then you start talking about mortgage brokers, and they start telling you, well, you need this much money coming in every month consistently to show the bank that you're trustworthy, and da-da-da. And you start going, well, I don't have consistency in the way that my freelance book works. So it starts adding stress to your life. I'm not a stress head by nature. I don't get stressed by things very often. But when it comes down to big life decisions that you want to support your family with, and the reason it's not happening is because you're not bringing in the work that you need to bring in, my stress levels went up. And it was not nice. Yeah. So I think until probably June this year, maybe July, it was tough. It was really tough. I even thought about maybe going back into my old career of doing product management. I've got some experience there. Bringing some of my Webflow skills into that arena might give me an angle to work with some local tech companies here in Dublin. But yeah, I was that close to saying, sod you, Webflow freelance career. I'm going back into the kind of 9 to 5, and yeah, it was tough. Then our son arrived, and our baby son arrived in August, like early August. At the same time, I think I had 3 leads come in, closed them all, delivered them like I've never delivered anything in my life before. I did some big projects really quickly. that boosted the bank balance up, and I was like, "Oh, this is easy. This like you just gotta hang tight, just wait, put yourself out there as much as you can, and good things will happen." And then yeah, August came. August was tough. I didn't take as much time off as I wanted to with our new little boy, because I had these leads and these projects coming in, and I didn't know when the next leads or projects were going to come in. So you kind of have to make hay while the sun shines, almost. And then yeah, come sort of middle of September, it all goes quiet again, and the cycle starts again. Right, how do I get money in? Is this the right thing to do? Like mortgage application is coming up. I need to prove that we can get money through the door. And until probably middle of November, maybe start of November, it was the same tough thoughts, and I wouldn't say sleepless nights, because I've always been lucky enough to get myself into good situations. At the end of the world, at the end of the day, you make what you can of what's in front of you, but it's not easy, and it's even now I'm thinking, oh, what's January going to be like? Oh, I've got a few leads that I'm trying to close. What's February going to be like? Oh, what's May going to be like? Like, when are we going to move house? Should we move house before I don't get any more leads, because that means the mortgage company would like me better because I got money coming in? Like, all those random things. And at the end of the day, still trying to put yourself out there in a positive, progressive, help other people in the community vibe, knowing that really we're all trying to be the swan on the surface, but we are paddling like freaking crazy underneath the water, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So it's been a really, personally, it's been a really positive year. Professionally, it's been a roller coaster of a year with some really great projects, some really like glimpses of, oh man, this is so cool, like to work doing what I do, to hit some pretty big valleys where you're like, it's pretty dark in here, it's pretty lonely, and yeah, maybe this isn't a good place to hang out for too much longer. So yeah, it's not grim, it's positive, but it has grim undertones.
I think that sounds similar to me around the time Mavian was born. I didn't have as dramatic a change of career as you did. But what I did do is I changed who I was targeting, because I wanted higher value clients, whatever the fuck that means. Higher paying clients. So I started cutting a lot of work that I just didn't want to pursue anymore, and started targeting higher end clients. But I suppose this comes to what I actually did there is I actually hired a guy. I hired a guy to do outreach for me, and this guy was hired on commission with a setup fee, and that took about 3 months for it to kick in. But at the same time, I had stopped taking on those lower value clients. I don't know why I keep saying value. The clients that just didn't. I was trying to target higher clients with bigger budgets. But that time was pretty. The end of that 3 months was pretty frightening, because it's the same thing. You don't. Yeah, the money's drying up, and I've said it a few times. Like the month before Mavian was born, it was like it was literally zero. It was like my sister's wedding was even the couple of weeks, like about 6 weeks before, and I was like, can I buy a suit?
Wow.
So yeah. um so yeah, that kind of though was there was two things there. Like, one, I was trying to change how my business was operating, and two, I stopped taking in guaranteed income, because this kind of income, it was a lot of work for a lot less than what I wanted to take in. So doing both, pulling the rug on one income stream and then aggressively targeting another income stream, meant there was that gap. Back to just kind of what you were saying there, the leads started coming in after a certain amount of time, but I had a guy doing that work for me. I had a guy, going around the world saying that I was the person that they that other people wanted to work with. And that guy earned his money. Like, he worked really hard and got me leads eventually. And I would have continued on this on that particular path, but just the way has worked out over the last 9 months is that I'm now essentially fully employed by one client. That client just kept wanting more and more and more, retained me more and more and more, and I'm essentially just working for them. So that's just basically me following the money, as opposed to not wanting to keep pursuing what I was doing with that other guy. And this kind of brings me back to the way I was saying earlier on, is that I've always hired in skills that I don't have, or things that I don't want to do. So I hired this guy. He started bringing in good leads. I hire designers if I'm doing a job, because I'm not a designer. I always hire a project manager, because that person just makes my life so much easier. and it kind of goes back to what we started off saying there about the freelance dream that everybody's sold, is that you can be the Swiss Army knife of everything. And there's people out there who can be, but I don't subscribe to that. I think one should hone in a skill that they have, and maybe that skill is just running a business. You don't actually have to do any of the work, and you can get all the people underneath you to do those things for you. Or maybe that skill is like becoming the best CSS, HTML, Webflow developer, or becoming that JavaScript Webflow developer, or that animations Webflow developer, and then being pulled into projects because you have that particular skill set. I don't know what the right answer is in any of them. But yeah, like, I'm particularly lucky. Well, I've worked my arse off to get myself into this position. But the last, I'm not, I don't have a business anymore. I'm employed. I'm working for one particular person, one particular company, and it's going to continue that way for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's I say, yeah, I like the way it's lucky. It's you do make your own luck, and you work, by working hard, you're going to increase your chance of being lucky. It's like working hard is buying more lottery tickets, essentially, is the way it works. But you still need to be there at the right time, the right place at the right time. And in this online world, globalized world, it is becoming increasingly hard to be there in the right place at the right time, for when you need it. It's that's it's what's they say, sod's law, isn't it? Like, all the leads come in when you don't want them to come in. You want them to come in 2 every month on the month, like, nicely patter it down. And then, as you get into the freelance world, you realize that that's not how it works. You've got to factor that into the freedom bit of the equation. I'm very lucky, like, where I can drop my son off at creche. I can, if my wife needs me to, I can, like, take a day off and hang out with my son, take him somewhere. Like, all of the year before, every Friday we'd go down the beach and hang out and go for walks, and it's just, that freedom element is great. But sometimes that freedom element means that for 2 months solid, like I was explaining with my newborn, like, I took a week off, and then I was 2 weeks head down trying to deliver clients to keep us, or not to keep us, but, well, it was to keep us, but to keep my freelance income ticking over for the next 2 months. And
Yeah, I've got a I've got a video of Maven being like 4 days old or something, and she's like on my chest, and I've got the laptop on my knees, like building out I don't know, it was like a 5-page website and like smashing it out in like a day and a half. But yeah, it was, she's going to be asleep for 90 minutes. Go. But yeah, I definitely I didn't have uh that parental leave, I suppose, at the very, very start. Same kind of deal. Needed to
yeah,
take that job. You just had to take that job.
well, that's the thing, and I do really like the reviews that are out there on Twitter and LinkedIn. I think it's always good to have a positive look back on stuff, because it's very different to the stuff we were talking about in the previous episode about finances. Like, as long as it's not like, hey, I made 200 grand this year. I think, although I still think there's room for that somewhere. I think it's quite nice to reflect
Let's not
on.
go down there.
No,
Let's
let's
not
not
go
go
down
down that route. No, but the success of some, like, congratulating someone through a review that they did of the year, I think is a positive. Obviously, there's a little bit of a marketing ploy in there as well, but there are, I reckon, as an iceberg, there are so many of us who freelance who month to month are still struggling. I think, like, there is, like, certain, like, really well known, like Pixel Geek's a good example of, he's really good at what he does, and he's been very vocal about it's hard. Like, you can't just turn up to Contra or to Webflow Experts or to Upwork and just, hey, I'm a Webflow guy, let's grab a job here and there. It doesn't work like that. It's competitive. There are so many good people out there. There are so many mediocre people out there, so many crap people out there. But it's hard to cut through, and it's hard to do it in a way that gives you that full workbook for 12 months of the year. And yeah, I think that's the downsides. Would I change it? Maybe I would change it. If someone came along and go, hey, look, we want to hire you for 4 days a week for the next 6 months, would I do it? I think in a heartbeat, I probably would say yes, in the same way that you said yes. If they were a good client to work for, there's some good projects that they want me to work on, I would probably take it in a heartbeat over trying to search for new clients every single month and trying to build them and then starting again, and building up relationships. And it's nice to meet. It is great to meet new clients. I've just recently, I'm working with a client, and it's actually, I look forward to turning on Slack and chatting and coming up with ideas and sharing work and sharing progress, because there's a very positive attitude coming across. But some days you have clients where you don't want to do that because they're just going to throw stuff at you all day, But unless you've got a full order book, it's very hard to say, hey, no, I don't want you as a client anymore. Because the way of the world is, like, if they're going to pay me money, I'm going to do the job, So yeah, I think on the positive side, my year of enjoying freelancing on the positive side has been great. I've worked from the UK, from Ireland, like different places in Ireland. You go and visit family, you sneak off for a couple of hours. Your example of Maybeen grabbing, like, she's awake in 90 minutes. I did that for a period of 2 months where our son, he was probably a year and a half old, maybe a year old, and he would wake up at 7 on the dot. And I knew if I could get downstairs at 5, I had a 2-hour slot where I needed to absolutely focus. Like, none of this, like, multi-tabbing, exploring this. It's like, my brief today before 7 o'clock, because I can hear the little monitor go, is do this, and then I'll have my breakfast time, and the day will kick off. And it focuses the mind in such a way that when he did wake up, it was such a pleasurable experience. Like, hey, I can come and hang out with my dude now because I've focused for 2 hours and I've got so much done in those 2 hours. It's we're talking a bit more about parenting here, but and fitting stuff in. But the ability for me to get up at 5 o'clock, do my work, send it off to the client, and then get on with my other bits of my day that isn't time bound, and that client gets what they need when they need to get it, is amazing. Like that's the freedom bit that is just gives you such a buzz. I came back from holiday. We actually ended up going to Portugal because I landed a client. There's a wedding out there. And I came back and the design that I had to build was ready. And I looked at it and I was like, this, normally you go, oh, it's a 2-week job. But I had another one lined up. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this in 3 days. And I was on a roll. I had my music on, like bang, bang, bang. 3 days later, I had this gorgeous looking site out. The client was happy out. It'd gone live. And you get that buzz that you don't get when you're working a 9 to 5 or working for a kind of permanent. But even when I was working at the agency, we did quick site launches, but it was never the same buzz that you get from someone came to you, asked you to do a job because you're good at what you do. You turn it around and they validate that their choice is right, give you a 5 out of 5 rating, and go on their happy way and pay you the money that. It's just, I don't know. It's such a satisfying way to do work. You exchange your skills for their money. Happy days, off you go. If you could do that every month in a consistent basis, it would be the best job in the world. Like it would be really good. But we know that only comes, I would say, 3-4 times a year if you're lucky. So yeah, it's hard, and I think the reason I wanted to talk about it was because there are so many people that I've spoken to recently who are in the same position. They're looking for ways to differentiate themselves in the marketplace because the leads aren't coming in, and there's this dream peddled. And I know Webflow is a tool. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. What you do with that tool is also important, but there's this perception that you learn Webflow and everything's happy go lucky. Everyone can make loads of money. You can live in different countries. You can move you can do this nomad lifestyle, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, most of us who do this are gonna find it hard at least 3 or 4 times a year because of the nature of the beast. Like there's some great people out there in the community that are trying to help freelancers get better and put themselves out there. Like Dan Petty does these portfolio reviews, and I really do like the way he presents himself. But he's in the 1% of earning capability. He'll land a big client that will keep him afloat for 6 months. But most of us are kind of like hand to mouth. Luckily I don't rent an office, but there'd have been times last year where I'd have gone, sorry, office, I can't afford you anymore. And, the upheaval of that is pretty stark. But generally, I'd like, where do I sit? Maybe I love freelancing. I love the buzz that you get. I love working with lots of different people. I love the fact that we can jump on a podcast at 3:00 in the afternoon and chat shit. But I'd love to have a happy medium of maybe retain a client that paid me for 3 days a week, all year. I did some really good work for them, and then the other 2 days I could jam with other clients, learn new techniques, new build challenges, all that kind of stuff. That would be probably my perfect setup, I would say.
Yeah, and I suppose you can't. Definitely having someone consistent is always a positive. Like it makes life a lot easier. But do you think it's because of the year that's in it, or do you think it's just because you have gone from agency life to freelance life that things are a little bit different? Like, do you think it's possible that the next 6-12 months, that because you've put in the groundwork, that you'll have that reoccurring client? What's your sense of that?
I was speaking to Dan just now, and I used to work with Dan at 80/20, and we were talking about he specifically mentioned show your work, okay? It's like everyone says, show your work, show your work, show your work. And we were saying it's great to show your work. In fact, you have to show your work, because if you don't show your work, people don't know who you are. But knowing who sees you when you show your work is quite hard to quantify. And that means that my confidence level of knowing if leads will become more consistent next year is kind of up in the air. Like, I honestly don't know. I don't know where my leads come from. I know people hear about me on Twitter. I've had my last 3 leads have gone, yeah, we saw you on Twitter, or I followed up on Twitter. I had one a call scheduled for next week that came through LinkedIn. I don't know how they found me on LinkedIn. Is it through a contact? I don't know, but I don't think there's any consistency as far as I can see of how leads are coming in. So I wouldn't be confident going into next year that it will be any better than this year, to be honest. I'd like to work out how to change that. Maybe I'll buy someone's course that makes 10 grand, 10 grand a month.
You have to make sure that person has made 10K a month.
Exactly. Maybe I'll follow one of those courses. I'll do a course on that, and that will solve all my problems. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe I'll hire someone like you did, and get someone to do what they're very good at, which is find people who need my services, and then I can convert them. But yeah, to be honest, I haven't really sat down, and I'm not very good at doing this, to be honest. I haven't sat down and gone, right, this is my plan. I'm going to be consistent at doing X, Y, and Z for 3 months, and hope that after month 3, all that work will have paid off and leads will start flowing in on my into my inbox. Yeah, I don't know. I would say I'm probably in the same place as a lot of freelancers, whether it's Webflow or graphic design or front end or whoever is. I just don't know. I think it's, and I don't know what I can do to increase that confidence level, really. The Webflow Experts program is kind of dead in the water. Contra and Upwork. Contra's dead in the water. Upwork, you have to start with tiny jobs and build your profile up. Really competitive. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe this podcast will help. Maybe I'll put some tutorials out in the new year. Maybe that will increase exposure and get me on some more shortlists. But for all intents and purposes, it's new year, new start. Last year didn't count for anything kind of vibe. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the joys of running a one-man business. It's tough.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, it is a business, because every expense that you put through comes off your revenue, essentially. It's all well and good making loads of cash or having loads of cash come in, but if your expenses are not balanced out, we're kind of lucky that we can control that to a certain extent. I'd love to be in a position where I could go and rent an office, and if I didn't spend a week there because we were away, or I don't know, I had other things on, I wouldn't feel guilty that I've just spent money on something I didn't use. But at the moment, I try and keep my costs down to a minimum. Don't spend too much on stuff. But yeah, who knows? Like, running a business is hard. Like, filing your taxes, pain in the backside. You have to put, a third of your income away into a little savings account as soon as you get paid. And you're like, yeah, but I need that money now. But you have to be disciplined, and you need, as you say, like, I have an accountant who every month will go, hey, can you put some money away? And I have to put the money away, Yeah, not easy. Not easy at all. Like, would I recommend this to anyone? Probably not. No.
Yeah.
When I'm hanging out with my kids on the beach, and we're finding crabs in the rock pool at 1:00 on a Tuesday, would I recommend it to anyone? Every day of the week. Every day of the week. But yeah, maybe I should sell products. Then you could, sell while you sleep. That might be a better way to do it. Freelancing is Freelance.
You're going to buy another course for that one as well.
Yeah. Oh, I could actually do
Yeah,
a course on that. I could do a course on that. I sold coffee. That was my big plan with the coffee. Um,
I think though, is kind of, yeah, like I've had a similar experience, but not this year. I've had a different experience, but overall, like it's the kind of running a business is hard. Um, when what I found best is when I've collaborated and had multiple people to collaborate with, and because this silo of individualism, like you don't have those people to bounce ideas off or to bring you in on other projects. So I suppose, yeah, the thing that I found most successful is including people that have greater skills than me or greater experience and getting them involved, and then they get you involved, and then it becomes like this little community, or not a community but a workforce, like a cooperative workforce that you have. And yeah, that's the thing that I found most successful. That I won't even say hone a skill, just do the one thing. um yeah, I do as little design, as little copywriting, as little project management as I can, as little as even looking at my own emails. Fucking hate it. you know. um but yeah, that's all kind of changed because of the position I'm in. But that would be the way to do it. I've always thought that people should be more cooperative and work together more often instead of being on their own. Maybe that's a solution, or maybe that'll help. But I also know what it's like when a job comes in and you're like, do I really want to hire a designer this time around? Just go for it. But what I found, when you're saying there about when the jobs come in, too many jobs come in, when you have like a little group of people that you can reach out to, I found that has helped. Um, but I think you're not the only one this year. I think a lot of people I've heard a lot of people say something similar. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Treat treat yourself more like a business than a freelancer, and yeah, it's the fucking tax and VAT in Ireland, man. It's
oh
insane.
gee, it's it ruins you. It ruins you. You have to pay, like in Ireland, for anyone who wants to move to Ireland, you have to pay in advance for your tax for next year based on your estimates for this year, which is tough. So you're almost paying your whole, almost not your whole, but let's call it 2/3 of your revenue is going to the tax man before you've finished the tax year. It's nuts. But like turn it onto a more positive note is anyone who's listening who, and I speak to quite a few of these people on Twitter, is anyone who's probably trying to get into this world of, they enjoy building websites, they're good at building websites, but they're relatively young on their career path. Is do consider staying or getting into a 9 to 5 into a bigger organization, in the same way that, like you were talking about, surrounding yourself with people who have different skill sets, is like learn like a sponge off people. Go, like, it's not saying go and work for a Webflow agency. It's go and work for a marketing agency, or go and work for a corporate that has a marketing department, and be that person in there that can be the Webflow person, and start crafting your skills that way, because you're going to be a sponge and you're going to learn how people deal with other people. Because 50% of freelancing isn't the Webflow skills. 50% of it is, as you said, project management, is people management, client management, how you speak to clients, how you know when to say yes, when to say no. All those kind of things actually come, at least in my experience, and I've only got my experience to go on, but is come through working in lots of different companies and industries throughout my life. And I know I don't get nervous on calls now, because I've dealt with idiots at companies. I've dealt with idiot clients at other companies. I've dealt with colleagues that have put me under pressure. Like, there's lots of experiences that I've had that at the time were very scary and like new, but over time have given me that inner confidence that if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I just go, I don't know. Why? Because I've been through that process of saying I do know and then getting caught out in previous lives, you know. But I think surrounding yourself with people who maybe have that a bit more experience and don't pretending that you know it all is the best way to do it. And don't maybe jump into the freelance world too soon with no sort of safety net on the other side. I'm not saying do it on the side and weekends, but build up your skill base in a safe environment where you still can pay your rent or your mortgage. You can still support your family in a way that is less stressful than if you do it like we do it, where you're just going, hey, paycheck to paycheck, you know. That's the only thing I could say. Like, it is, the benefits are really good when it works. The downsides are really deep when it doesn't work. But you can make it work, but just don't put yourself in a position where if it doesn't work, you're in trouble, because that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help your career progression. It doesn't help your ability to do it in the future. All it does is kind of just take a chunk off you that you'll never get back. Oh, you never get back. Oh no. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway. Sorry, guys, for the end of year wrap up isn't as positive as we'd like to think. In fact, no.
We're having a Christmas party next week.
Yes, this is an excellent idea. I don't know how we're going to have a Christmas party on a podcast.
So me and Matt are getting drunk on the podcast next week.
Yeah, I said it to Aoife. This morning after you suggested it. I said, Ailín just suggested we have a Christmas party. She goes, an amazing idea. That's an amazing idea. So now yeah. I've got to carve out an evening now. Well, I guess you do as well, where we can get some Deliveroo to deliver the pints of Guinness from the local. I need to drive down to Clare and we could just do it in your local. And
well, you do need to come to Clare and go surfing.
Yeah, that'll be a
promised world.
That'll be. Well, I'll mic myself up as I'm swearing at the waves crashing over my head in January.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, 50 minutes of talking about how bad freelancing is. We've done well. So, should we give everyone what they wanted?
I think we did.
And
that person in Wisconsin, to the person in Utah.
No, honestly, if you've got this far and you're listening in Wisconsin, please tell us who you are.
And who's the person in Minnesota?
And who's the person in Minnesota? Yeah. And who's the person in Nepal? No, honestly,
Well, like when you're going down that far, it's like one person has listened to us once in Nepal. But thank you.
Yeah, we still value you. We do still value you. Right, okay. So, yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you.
Yeah. Bye.